totally calling
You know why I'm upset with you?
Why are you upset with me?
Because we haven't had a joke of the day in a long time.
Okay. All right then. Okay. You have the right to be mad. So let me think about it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Chapter 23, bowel elimination, because I'm recording now. So again, vocab words: feces, poop, defecation, or bowel movement, are both words we use for somebody pooping, and of course, stool is poop. Those are all words we use a lot. So, some people have a bowel movement every day. Okay, so you'll see BM a lot. And in nursing school, if your first name is Brandy and your last name starts with an M, you get made fun of because you have to initial everything BM. Seriously, it happened. So some people have a bowel movement every day, some people every 2 to 3 days, and that is normal. Everybody's different, but you will find that older people are completely obsessed with their bowels. If they don't have a bowel movement after half a day, they are tore down. So just expect it. And that's why we do extremely good nail care and hand washing and hygiene, especially before meals, because if they haven't had a bowel movement and we won't give them a laxative, they'll just put things into their own hands. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Get that point? Yeah, I'm on fire today. So, stools are normally brown. They can change depending on what you eat. My favorite poopy diaper ever was my 1-year-old after he ate his birthday cake for his first birthday party. Had all kinds of different colors of like icing on it. And he had like this rainbow technicolor poop coming out in his diaper. It was hilarious. I was like, whoa, look at that. Because I'm weird. Like all nurses are. And just for the record, if you have to take a lot of iron supplements, or if you drink Pepto-Bismol, that can turn your stool kind of blackish, and that's normal. Okay? If it's pitch black and tarry, you know how thick tar is, then that's blood. But it's black because it was higher up in the intestines, and it's been digesting that blood, so it's black and tarry by the time it comes out. Fresh blood, probably just fine. It's probably just hemorrhoids, which is normally not a big deal. So fresh blood, I don't worry too much about unless it's like a gallon's worth. But black, tarry stools, I worry about that. So stools should also be soft, formed, moist, and shaped like the rectum.
I never thought about that.
I know, right? You never thought about the characteristics of poo before, have you?
No, like that it's shaped like the rectum.
Right. You just knew what it looked like, but oh yeah. So now you know what your rectum looks like. So, yes, you do observe everybody's poop. Because we're always assessing our patients. So again, any monkey can change a brief. A CNA assesses the bowel movement. Okay? It's that assessment mentality. Okay? Is this normal? Is it not? Okay? So there are a lot of things that affect bowel movements. Diet, for sure. Exercise. Their age alone affects bowels. They don't get to move around as much as they used to. A lot of the medications they take dry them out and take away a lot of that fluid that's in their body. So a lot of them really are, their peristalsis has slowed down. So they really are at risk for constipation. However, most of them think if they don't have a bowel movement every day that they're constipated, and that's not true. Okay? So, common problems when it comes to bowels, of course, constipation. And that means the passage of hard, dry stool. If someone has to strain to have a bowel movement, that is not normal. And a lot of times the stool will be large, where it's stayed in the colon so long it's built up and gotten bigger and bigger. Or sometimes it might be marble sized. So you have a lot of smaller pieces coming out. Uh-oh. Sorry. If the constipation continues over time, it is called a fecal impaction. And now we're getting to something that is more dangerous. Because what goes, again, your bowels and the urinary system get waste out of the body. If it cannot get waste out of the body, then the waste at some point, it's going to kill somebody. So, lucky for us nurses, if it gets to the point it is a fecal impaction and they cannot get it out, sometimes we must remove it digitally or with our fingers. And it is not comfortable at all for these poor residents to put your finger into their rectum to get out the poop. So if at all possible, we want to keep them from getting to this point. Now, you guys, as nursing assistants, do not have to do that. You just have to report it. Diarrhea, the frequent passage of liquid stools. So we've talked about diarrhea before. The food goes through the intestines so fast, your body doesn't have time to absorb the liquid out of it. So it's going to be watery, thin. So if this happens like one time, I don't worry about it. Once or twice, I'll wait and see. If it happens a third time, then we're calling the doctor. Because sometimes it just may be from medication or something they've ate. Maybe it was Taco Tuesday. It didn't set well this time. And maybe they just need to get something out of their body and then they'll be fine. But again, I worry about them losing that much fluid, so we have to watch for dehydration. Okay, very important. Fecal incontinence. All right, so we talked about urinary incontinence. So, of course, this is the inability to control feces and gas from coming out of the body. And that could be for a lot of reasons. Fecal incontinence. Okay, flatulence. Gas in the intestines is called flatus. So, excessive gas that comes out into the air is called flatulence. We don't chart that the patient farted. We would chart they had flatulence. Okay, bowel training. So we got to train our bladder yesterday, and now we can sit and roll over. So today we're training our bowels. So what's the point of that? Well, the goal is to gain control of your bowel movements and to develop a regular pattern of elimination. Okay, if we can get a resident to have a bowel movement on a regular basis after breakfast, then great. That will help keep him from becoming constipated, or it helps with incontinence, things like that. Okay. So how do we train the bowels? Well, the first thing we might do, because if we want them to have a bowel movement at a certain time, we're going to kind of have to make them have a bowel movement. So what we might do is use a suppository. And it says it's cone shaped. To me, it looks like a little bullet. And it is a solid medication that melts inside the body. So we actually keep those in the refrigerator in the med room because they do melt. Because we're hoping they're going to have a bowel movement about 30 minutes later. But you guys will not put suppositories in. The nurse has to do that. But again, you're just going to put the suppository up, and that kind of stimulates the body and makes them have a bowel movement. If that doesn't work, we might use an enema. And believe me, that is not your friend. It's your enema. So basically with an enema, we're putting fluid into the rectum. Now enemas they're a lot more aggressive, so we're always going to try suppository first, okay? Then enema. There are a lot of different fluids that can be used, so you would just need to know what type of fluids they're going to use, because nursing assistants can give enemas. However, you have to see what your state says if they give you permission, and your facility. Because around here, most facilities will not allow you to give a patient an enema, but some of them will. Okay, so the state of Kentucky says you can, but maybe the particular facility you work at says no. All right. When you give a suppository or an enema, you want them to wait as long as possible, because a lot of times immediately they feel like they have to defecate. Just the stimulation of putting something into the rectum automatically makes them feel like they need to poop, okay? So we want them to wait as long as possible. With an enema, maybe like 10, 20 minutes. With a suppository, maybe 30 minutes. But again, we got to do whatever we can to keep them from using the bathroom immediately, because then you're going to lose all that medicine and stuff and have to, and it's not going to work. All right. So enemas come in a couple different ways. The most common one is what they call a small volume enema. And they come pre-made. This is the part that goes into the rectum. There is a lubricant on the outside of it so that it goes in smoothly. So hopefully everything will come out smoothly. Anywho, so this will be inserted into the rectum, and you will slowly push water into the rectum, and you're going to keep rolling it up like a toothpaste tube until all of the fluid comes out. And then I don't care if I have to put a vice grip on their butt cheeks to keep them from pooping. Don't let them poop. Okay? The other way that an enema could be ordered is through an enema bag. And this is a bag that just hangs up like an hobby pole or whatever. And you can open it up here and fill it with saline, water, soap suds enema, whatever. And then we got this tube that's clamped. And when we're ready, we're going to stick this tube in about 2 to 4 inches. And then we can unclamp it and let the fluid flow through in there, okay? Anybody want to, let's see. Who wants to try it first? You're the birthday girl. Man, I really thought y'all was going to try that. Okay. So, yeah, insert the tube 2 to 4 inches for adults. Okay, here is a picture of giving the enema. So we'll see that this bag is about maybe a foot above where they're inserting the tube, because you want it to drain, but not so fast that it all goes in at once. So we're only putting that bag maybe a foot above the rectum. Here you can see the placement of the tube, where that would be. All right, so small volume, like I said, that's the one that we probably use the most. And you want to make sure that You have your position in a Sims position or the left side lying position. There's something about laying on your left side that's better for everything in life. So anytime you have digestive problems, if you lay on your left side, it helps. If you're trying to get rid of gas, laying on your left side helps. If you need an enema, lay on your left side. If when you're pregnant, you lay on the left side, baby gets better blood flow and oxygen, whatever. So something about that left side. So again, this is just kind of a picture of what that looks like when you're given a small volume enema. So we're going to jump to ostomies next on page 347. So an ostomy is basically a surgically created opening for the elimination of body waste. So they cut an incision into the abdomen and they'll take the end of the intestine because it usually you may have something wrong with the colon or you may have something wrong with a part of the intestines. So they may have to cut out the bad part of the intestines, but they have to let that rest for a while. So poop has to go somewhere. So we're gonna pull that intestine out of that hole we just put in the abdomen and fold it over and sew it. Okay. Now what you see there, that inside of the intestine that's sticking out from their belly, that is called a stoma. Stoma. So the actual part you see is stoma, but the hole that you pull it through is called an ostomy. Okay? Some people use these for a small amount of time. Maybe they had, I've heard of just part of the intestines dying. They just quit working. So they just cut out the bad parts. Or maybe they had some type of cancer that affected part of it. There's just different reasons that they might have to cut that part out and let the intestines rest for a couple months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And then they may try to reattach it back to the rest of the intestines down to the colon. So hopefully it's just temporary, but then sometimes, yes, it can be permanent, depending on what was wrong with the person. I would say the most common one you'll see is called a colonostomy. And again, we know what an ostomy is, that surgical opening, so that means they have pulled the colon, it's part of the colon that you see. And it kind of shows you what those look like. Now, depending on where that ostomy is, depending on how far up the intestines it goes, the consistency of the stool will be different. Because of what did I tell you happens while all this food is being digested through the intestines? What is your body doing with all that stuff that's going through there?
Absorbing nutrients.
Absorbing nutrients and what else?
Fluid.
Fluid. So, how would you expect the consistency of this stool to be higher up in the colon then?
More liquidy.
More liquidy. Absolutely. Because it hasn't been able to absorb as much fluid out yet. And of course, then that means the further down you go, then the more solidish it would be.
So does that mean like the person would have to drink more water than a normal person because it's not absorbing as much?
That is a great question. So, what do you guys think? That's a really good question, you big nursing student, you. So, if they have a colostomy higher up and more fluid is coming out with their stool, do you think they need more water?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay, give me your rationale.
If it's liquidy already, then I wouldn't say that you would need any more like fluids.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think, because even if you drink more, it's still going to come out no matter if it's not absorbing it.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? I'd like to get a poll in the class here. No? Yes, no? Okay. I think you have a great argument there, but at the same time, I'm thinking they're losing a lot of liquid. So it's hard for me not to give them more liquid for the time that it is going through the body. Try your best, you know. So, see, I would kind of think that yes, you would at least try to. But the rationales you gave were very good, and just starting to think like that, the fact that you have an opinion and you're trying to think this through, that is very far advanced for this class. Okay? Because I don't even care if y'all are right or wrong. When y'all answer something and give me a rationale, I don't care if you get it wrong. The fact that you're doing it is like so good. So good. That you're thinking, problem solving, that's awesome. So awesome. All right, so here's a little stoma, and you can see right here an actual stoma. It's very dark pink, reddish, something like that, and it works like Tupperware. First, you have this sticker-like thing that goes on the skin, and this bag here actually pops onto it like Tupperware. You can see this round shape right here. You just go all the way around it and pop it on like Tupperware. When you have to take it off, same thing. Pop it off, peel it off. There you go. Because you can take this off to empty it if you want to, or depending on what you're doing, or you can unroll the bottom of it because this is actually clamped, and you can unroll it, and there's a hole in the bottom of it so that you can just empty it that way, and then roll it back up and clamp it. If they have gas, you do have to open this pouch, open the Tupperware a little bit, and kind of push the air out of the bag because it blows it up like a balloon. So we do have to let the air out, let the flatus out of the bag. You do have to empty it whenever it starts to get full, and that how often that is can vary. It may, after meals, you would expect that you're going to have a heavier amount of stool, right? Because when you're eating, when you start digesting and pushing everything down, all right? So when you empty that, it just depends. Just whenever there's stuff in there, get it out. And again, we said we open it whenever it bulges out because of flatus. Now, one thing that is bad and embarrassing for people with ostomies is that they do smell. It's still poop. And I can get embarrassed about it. So some of the things that we do to try to keep odors down is make sure that we get good hygiene, because the skin around that ostomy breaks down because feces and all the digestive juices and the things that are in that, if it gets on the skin that's around that ostomy, it's going to break down that skin because the inside of your intestine is made to handle that. The outside of your skin on your belly is not. So we do have to make sure that we give really good skincare around the ostomy. Yes, ma'am.
Like after a few years, like if you have one, do you have to like change its place, or
Not.
the skin is okay?
Yeah, not unless there's a problem. That's a great question, but we try to use a lot of different methods to keep that off of the skin as much as possible. And like I'll show you a colostomy bag and tell you a little bit about that, but we shouldn't have to. That's a super great question. All right, so good hygiene, emptying the pouch. The less fecal matter that is in there, the less likely it is to be full enough to touch the skin, right? Avoid gas forming foods. Flatus is flatus. Gas is gas. It all smells bad. Okay? And they also have little deodorant pills, or sometimes I've seen little drops that you can put down in there to try to help with the odors. And that is all for 23. Is there any questions about bowel elimination?